Hi, this is Matt from Clario. Today we're kicking off a new video series on evidence-based marketing. This is part 1 of 6, and it's going to cover the integration and enrichment of event and customer data. Subsequent videos in the series will cover a variety of evidence-based marketing concepts, including modeling attribution and customer lifetime value, modeling high-risk or high-reward behaviors and activating audiences based on those models, forecasting enterprise performance and modeling allocation of resources. And at the center of the whole thing is a process of scientific testing and measurement, which really acts as the flywheel for continuous improvement within the evidence-based marketing framework. So to kick this off, what I'd like to do is set aside the framework for now and bring into its place a timeline. Time is one of the essential elements to evidence-based marketing, and it's largely forgotten within many traditional marketing data constructs. I'm going to give you 3 examples of timelines of events and how they are structured in an evidence-based marketing data construct. First, let's look at a classic retail case, a single customer interacting with your advertising platforms and your e-commerce website. On this customer's path to purchase, we first see an interaction with a Facebook display ad. They receive an email. They click on that email. They receive a direct mail piece. They go to Google and search for your product, and then they end up converting on the website. There are really 2 types of data you want to collect from these events as they occur. The first is an exact or close approximation of the time of occurrence, a timestamp, you might say, and the second is a set of metadata that will allow you to do a lot of powerful analytics later on. Because this is an e-commerce purchase, we do have a lot of exact timestamps. Perhaps the only exception is the direct mail. Many times direct mail is an approximate in-home date, and so we will have an approximate timestamp representing when that consumer was actually presented with the impression of the direct mail piece. Metadata is information you capture from the body of the event. So what you can do for most digital programs that come from a digital ad platform or an ESP is capture the very specific information about the campaign, for example, the campaign ID. You can capture the ad set ID in the case of Facebook, and then the ad ID itself. And with that information captured and stored for that click that user engaged in, you can get back to all of the information in Facebook about the financials of the campaign, the relevance, how the audience targeting was set up. So lots of rich metadata associated with that particular event. Similar information is available for all digital programs. An interesting one to think about is the purchase event. What are you capturing for the purchase event today? A lot of information related to the specifics of the transaction, so product line item detail, item identifiers, and all of the information associated with couponing. So one of the things that's rarely captured is the appropriate coupon ID at the transaction or item level. So, but a very powerful one when it can be captured. Think about all of those detailed metadata items that could inform questions later on in an evidence-based framework. Finally, before we move on from the classic retail case, I just want to point out, perhaps obviously, that this is one of the primary reasons that an event-based framework is not implemented at marketers today. The data is very complicated and it's spread around to a lot of different platforms. So for example, just in this simple case for this one customer, data is retrieved from the Facebook ad platform, from the ESP, from the web analytics platform, from a third-party direct mail fulfillment house, from the Google Ads platform, and from the in-house e-commerce or CRM system. But let's move beyond the classic retail case of a path to purchase and look at an interesting other case for a consumer. And so what we're going to do is we're going to look at a consumer who had a purchase. And then subsequent to that purchase, there was an inbound call to the customer service center. Subsequent to that, there was a product return. Subsequent to that, there was a negative feedback provided from that customer on the website. And finally, there was a series of sent emails that were never opened or interacted with. Similar metadata is captured for each of these events, but I think there are 3 unique characteristics to think about on this type of event data. The first thing is, when you think about the purchase information that you're capturing, remember previously we discussed the fact that you were capturing an item ID and you were capturing other information about the product. Many retailers don't capture the same level of granularity with their returns. And what that means is that from an analytic perspective, you're going to have difficulty understanding what the causality was related to customer dissatisfaction that you can analyze later. So it's very important to make that connection between the return event and the purchase event, even in an omnichannel retailer where that might occur in different channels. The second type of information that you should be interested in capturing is related to non-structured events. For example, the phone call or web feedback that we received. So when you think about each of those, think about what kind of information you want to capture for those events. So we might want to capture the full body of the text associated with those events. But many of these vendors that operate call centers or web feedback forms are also going to give you some sense of a categorization of the issue. And they're also going to give you something maybe even about the sentiment. And this gets into natural language processing. These kinds of pieces of information can be extremely valuable later on. And this same type of information can be captured for web feedback forms. And the final concept that I wanted to get across with this example is that sometimes it is the lack of an event which is actually going to become a powerful predictor later on. So in this particular case, the fact that this consumer failed to have a click event or an open event following each of these email sends is actually going to be a powerful tell later on when we start looking at predictive analytics and segmentation built on top of this event data framework. The last example is going to be the quickest, but it is really driven by the fact that many retail and marketing organizations today are focused on recurring revenue models, especially those that are driven by subscriptions. And so for this final example, let's look at a consumer who interacted with us via Instagram at first, and then as a result of that interaction, subscribed for the free trial of our service. Over the next short period of time, they had multiple periods of engagement. We were able to send them a clever email to attempt to increase engagement, and sure enough, that was successful in driving additional engagement, and before the end of the free trial, they subscribed to our service. Much of the event data captured in this example has been described before, so for Instagram and for the email, the type of event metadata we want to capture has been articulated already. But this presents us with an opportunity to demonstrate that the engagement event is an entire nested timeline in and of itself. This nested timeline can represent all of a user's sub-engagement with the content on your web or e-commerce site, or even an application that you've developed. So now that we have a foundational understanding of how to integrate, enrich, and structure the event data for your organization, let's take a look at how to use that event data to recreate a snapshot of every customer at any historic point in time. To get started, let's recreate the path to purchase that we used in the first example of this video. So we have someone who engaged with a Facebook ad, and then they were sent an email, and then they clicked on that email, and then they received a direct mail piece, and then they searched on Google, and then they converted via your e-commerce website. So for your organization, you may have defined tens or even hundreds of characteristics to describe each of your individual consumers. Many times these characteristics are described as recency, frequency, or monetary characteristics, where recency is the amount of time that has elapsed since the customer's last purchase. Frequency is the number of times, either historically, cumulative, or over a rolling window of time that the customer has purchased. And then monetary will be either the sum value of their past purchases or an average purchase value for that consumer. These characteristics are sometimes extended to P and C, or product and channel preferences, where product is the customer's preferred product class or family, say luxury handbags, and C is the preferred purchase channel, say this customer had preferred to purchase in the retail store. Now, there are many other characteristics that we will discuss in future videos. These include things like propensity models, promotional sensitivity, velocities such as value or email engagement velocity, and a wide variety of demographic enrichments. But what I really want to get across in this video is how these characteristics can be retrieved at any point in time for any given customer using the event data structure we've discussed today. So let's say we have a customer characteristic that defines a customer's product preference based on the last 5 times they've come to the website via a Google PLA or non-branded search, and what the term or product was that led them there. And let's say for this consumer, it was jewelry. But now let's move forward in time, and as this customer moves along their event path, they come to the next Google search. And it just so happens that this Google search is for footwear, making 3 of the last 5 searches for this consumer footwear related, and bumping jewelry out of the preference. Finally, the consumer moves along her path to make another purchase. Now, all along, we've been seeing things adjust, such as recency, which has been going up based on the amount of time that has elapsed from her last purchase. In this case, we're now going to see an adjustment to add 1 to frequency. There may be an adjustment up or down to average purchase value based on this particular purchase. Perhaps even handbags are bumped from the preference, and say footwear, based on her last demonstrated Google search, becomes the product that is preferred by this consumer. And maybe instead of the store, she makes this purchase on the e-commerce site, and even her channel preference shifts from the store to the web. So I hope this video has done a good job of introducing you to the concepts of integration and enrichment of event data, and how that event data foundation can be used to recreate a snapshot of each customer at any historic point of your choosing. These 2 concepts are fundamental to the upcoming videos in this series. I hope you'll join us next time when we're going to be speaking about marketing attribution, and I really appreciate you taking this evidence-based marketing journey with us. Thanks.